Yo, 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 what's up everybody? It's Nasty, and today we're talking about everybody's favorite topic that starts with a D. That's right, death. This week started out fantastic. On Tuesday, we flew through the first 4 bosses and got right back to Conclave of the Chosen. We downed Conclave in only 3 tries, which is quite impressive considering the amount of issues that we were running into the Sunday before that. We ended up moving on to Rastakhan right after that, but it was running towards the end of the night, and we only got about 4 pulls in. Although I have to say, Phase 3 of Rastakhan is pretty undertuned, we could say. We ended up not having a tank for about 5 minutes at the end, and still getting him down to about 16% before the night was over. Wednesday we ended up doing a full clear of normal. I'm really excited to see some of these fights when we get to them later on in Heroic, especially Jaina. That fight is hectic as all hell, but it'll be really fun when we finally get to it and get a chance to take her down. Sunday we started off on Rastakhan and got him down in about 10 or so pulls. It wasn't too bad. The thing is that it was Super Bowl Sunday. We ended up having a bunch of people off, and it seemed like everybody was kind of not too into the night. I don't want to say that we didn't want to be there, but it just felt like something was a little bit off. Like we were missing 1 or 2 people, and it just became a little bit clumsy, I would say. And then we moved on to Mekatork. I gotta say, Mekatork is one of my favorite bosses that we've encountered this entire raid. I really love when you get to be shrunk down into little itty bitty players and then climb up into the robots and then have to dismantle them essentially from the inside. It's just something about that mechanic is way more fun than anything else that I've run into in any other experience. We ended up wiping a bunch of times, but I think we really learned the mechanics and got him down to about 16%. So I'm really excited to see where we can get to this coming week. Now let's get to that death. My goal for this last week on Opulence was to be able to build stacks before getting to the main room so that way we can try and have my crit buff sooner. Well, let's just say things didn't really go as planned. As before, we're going to go ahead and take our logs, put them into WoW Analyzer, and take a look to see what it has to say. Oof. Not the best fight. Didn't really use my cooldowns, wasn't very efficient, and I had a lot of downtime. Well, I mean, I guess a lot of this isn't really surprising, seeing that I was dead. We're going to go ahead and look at the details panel. We can see here that it's highlighting my glacial spike in red, and that's because it's saying that essentially I wasn't using these as effectively as I should have been. I want to try and save those for the most opportune moments when I have either multiple targets that I can hit if I have splitting ice on, or I want to follow up with a flurry to make sure that I proc my glacial spikes. Over here you can see that there's this giant red line that indicates where I died, and it's showing that I died at 4 minutes and 49 seconds. So as before, we're going to go ahead and jump back over to the logs and see where I was, what I got hit by, and exactly what I can do to try and make sure that this doesn't happen again. Back in the logs, we're going to jump over to 440, give or take, make sure that I'm selected, and then go ahead and hit play. We can see that my positioning has me up and to the left a little bit away from the group. And the purpose of this is so I can try to build some of those crit stacks that I was talking about with the Topaz gem. It looks like I was just sitting here casting Frostbolts and waiting for the Flames of Punishment to be coming from the ad. I continued casting 2 more Frostbolts even while he was casting. I then decided to interrupt and try to get into position. Clearly this was not a good idea and inevitably led to my death. I need to make sure that when I see Flames of Punishment start coming out, that I try to do a better job positioning myself and don't worry about getting my stacks. A dead DPS is no DPS, and not having any stacks in the group means that they don't get to benefit from my buff as well. Next, let's take a look at Conclave. As before, we're going to go ahead and load them up into WoW Analyzer. You guessed it. Didn't do a really good job of managing my cooldown Comet Storm, and it looks like I also had some pretty bad downtime. This fight has a lot of mechanics that you have to pay attention to, as well as DPSing the priority target. So what I want to do is try to find an area where I had a lot of downtime and I can try to focus on making sure that I'm continually casting while moving to a specific area. It looks like from 111 to 132, I only cast about 3 spells. This is pretty horrendous, actually. So let's go ahead back over to the logs and figure out what's going on during that time, so that way I know exactly when I need to be paying attention this coming week. Starting at about 1:12, one of the bosses ends up spawning and requires everybody to run over to him. Also during this time, it's my job to make sure that I try to bait out Kragwa to jumping to me, so that way he doesn't end up hitting anybody else in the raid. This just makes it a lot easier for everybody else to try and get together in a small area while still avoiding being hit. This week I need to make sure that I'm still doing damage to the boss while moving and trying to position myself. What's your favorite mechanic of this raid? Be sure to leave it down in the comments below. Be sure to stop in the streams on Tuesdays and Sundays at 7:30 Central. And as always, thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.